The massive space station called Nexus Prime floated in the darkness between stars like a giant metal city. Inside its largest chamber, representatives from dozens of alien civilizations sat in their special seats that were built for their different body types. Some aliens were tall and thin, others were short and wide, and a few looked like they were made of crystal or gas clouds. Commander Jake Harrison stood next to diplomat Lisa Martinez in the center of the huge room. They were the only humans in a place filled with creatures that had been traveling between stars for thousands of years. Jake felt small in his blue uniform as he looked up at the aliens who towered above him. Lisa held a tablet with Earth's application for membership in the Galactic Council. The leader of the meeting was a creature called Vextar from the Draconian Empire. He was 7 feet tall with dark green scales that reflected the lights in the chamber. His golden eyes looked down at the two humans like they were insects that had crawled into his home. When he spoke, his voice boomed across the room like thunder. "So these are the mammals from the third planet in the Sol system," Vexitar said with a laugh that sounded like rocks grinding together. "They call themselves humans, and they want to join our council. Tell me, little creatures, what makes you think you belong here with civilizations that have conquered entire star systems?" Lisa stepped forward and cleared her throat. "We come seeking friendship and trade with the galaxy. Earth has much to offer in terms of art, music, and scientific knowledge. We believe that working together makes all of us stronger." The aliens in the chamber began to make sounds that might have been laughter. Some clicked their tongues, others made whistling noises, and a few just shook their heads. The crystalline aliens called the Zarathi made a musical sound that filled the air, like broken glass falling on stone. "Scientific knowledge?" said one of the Zarathi through a translator device. "Your species has barely learned how to split atoms. We mastered fusion power before your planet even had life on it." A gas-based alien called a Nebulan shimmered in, its containment suit. "They still use chemical rockets to reach their own moon. My people travel between dimensions while these mammals struggle to leave their gravity well." Vextar raised his clawed hand, and the room became quiet. "Let us examine what Earth brings to this galaxy. They have been in space for less than 100 of their years. They have never traveled beyond their own solar system except with simple robotic probes. Their weapons are primitive nuclear devices that we stopped using when their species was still living in caves." Jake felt his hands form fists behind his back, but he kept his face calm. He had been warned that this might happen, but hearing it was worse than he expected. The aliens continued to list everything that made humans inferior to them. "Their lifespans are pathetically short," continued Vextar. "Most of them die before they reach 100 years, while we Draconians live for thousands. How can such short-lived creatures contribute anything meaningful to civilizations that think in terms of millennia?" An alien that looked like a walking tree spoke up. "Their planet is divided into over 200 separate nations that fight each other over resources. They cannot even unite their own world, yet they seek to join a galactic community. They pollute their atmosphere and poison their oceans," added another alien. "Any species too primitive to maintain their own planet has no business among the stars." Lisa tried to respond, but Vextar cut her off with a gesture. "We have heard enough. The Galactic Council has no place for such a backward species. Perhaps, in a few thousand years when you have evolved beyond your current primitive state, you may apply again. Until then, return to your little world and do not waste our time." The vote was swift and unanimous. Every alien delegation rejected Earth's application without even discussing it. Jake watched as numbers appeared on screens around the chamber, showing 0 votes in favor of human membership. "This session is concluded," Vextar declared. "Security will escort the human delegation back to their vessel." As Jake and Lisa walked through the corridors of the space station, they could hear aliens talking about them in voices that did not try to hide their amusement. Some aliens pointed at the humans as they passed, treating them like curiosities in a zoo. "Did you see how small they are?" one alien said to another. "I cannot believe they thought they could sit among us as equals." "Their ship is so primitive," laughed another. "It took them months to reach this station while we travel the same distance in days." Jake noticed that Lisa was recording everything on a small device hidden in her hand. The device captured every insult and every laugh from the aliens who thought humans were beneath their notice. When they reached their ship, Jake finally spoke. That went exactly as badly as we expected it would. Lisa nodded and held up the recording device. But now we have everything we need. Every word they said about us is recorded here. Every insult and every dismissal. What happens now? Jake asked, as their ship prepared to leave the station. Now we go home and show this to the people, who have been waiting for exactly this kind of motivation, Lisa replied. Earth has been preparing for this moment longer than the Galactic Council realizes. Their small ship turned away from the massive space station and began its journey back to Earth. Behind them, the aliens of the Galactic Council returned to their discussions about trade routes and territory disputes, completely forgetting about the two small humans who had dared to ask for a place among them. None of the aliens noticed that the human ship took a different route home than the one it had used to arrive. None of them detected the scanning devices that recorded the locations of major alien installations along the way. And none of them realized that Earth had been gathering intelligence about the galaxy for much longer than anyone suspected. As the ship jumped to faster-than-light travel, Jake looked at the recording one more time. They mocked us today, but they have no idea what we are really capable of. Lisa smiled as she sealed the recording in a secure container. Let them think we are primitive. Let them believe we are weak. It will make what comes next so much more satisfying. 6 months after the humiliation at Nexus Prime, General Paul Mitchell walked through the deep tunnels carved into the Colorado mountains. The facility was buried so far underground that no satellite or spy could detect what happened inside. The tunnels led to a massive chamber where Earth's brightest minds worked on humanity's greatest secret. The chamber was filled with machines that hummed with energy and screens that showed equations most people could never understand. Scientists in white coats moved between workstations while military officers watched over them. At the center of it all stood Dr. Elena Rodriguez, the woman who had changed everything humanity thought they knew about physics. General Mitchell, Elena called out as she saw him approaching. Perfect timing. We just finished the final tests on the dimensional phase generator. Paul looked at the machine that Elena was pointing to. It was about the size of a car and covered in cables that pulsed with blue light. The machine did not look like much, but Paul knew it represented technology that would make the aliens rethink everything they believed about humans. Does it work the way we hoped? Paul asked. Elena smiled and pressed a button on her control panel. A metal ball appeared on a table, next to the machine. She pressed another button and the ball seemed to fade away like smoke until it was completely invisible. Then she pressed a third button and the ball became solid again. The ball never moved, Elena explained. It just shifted into a parallel dimension where it could not be seen or touched by anything in our normal space. But from that dimension, it can still affect our world when we want it to. Captain Steve Baker stepped forward from where he had been watching the demonstration. Steve was the best pilot Earth had ever produced, and he would be the first person to command a ship equipped with this new technology. His ship, the USS Defiance, was being built in another part of the facility. How long can something stay in phase? Steve asked. As long as we want, Elena replied. The power requirements are minimal once the shift is complete. A ship could stay in dimensional phase for months without any problems. Paul nodded with satisfaction. This was exactly what Earth needed to surprise the aliens who thought humans were too primitive to matter. While the galaxy focused on making their existing technology bigger and more powerful, humans had discovered something entirely new. Lieutenant Amy Foster approached the group carrying a tablet full of information. Amy was in charge of gathering intelligence about alien military movements, and she had been very busy since Earth's rejection by the Galactic Council. General, we have a problem, Amy said. Our spy networks have detected massive Draconian fleet movements toward the outer rim territories. They are gathering their largest warships in one location. How many ships? Paul asked. Over 200 battleships plus support vessels, Amy replied. Intelligence suggests they are planning some kind of demonstration attack to show their power to the rest of the galaxy. Steve frowned. Demonstration on who? Amy hesitated before answering. All signs point to Earth, sir. The Draconians want to make an example of us to discourage other primitive species from applying to the Galactic Council. Paul was not surprised by this news. Earth's military leaders had been expecting something like this ever since the humiliating projection. The aliens had made it clear they thought humans were beneath notice, so destroying Earth would be easy for them. When do they plan to attack? Paul asked. Our best estimate is 6 weeks from now, Amy replied. The fleet will need time to coordinate their movements and gather supplies for the journey to our solar system. Elena looked up from her calculations. 6 weeks is perfect. We will have 3 phase-capable ships ready by then, plus all the supporting technology. Paul turned to address the entire chamber. Scientists and military officers stopped their work to listen to their commander. People, we have been preparing for this moment since Earth first reached for the stars, Paul said in a voice that carried to every corner of the chamber. The aliens think we are weak because we are young. They think we are stupid because we are different. They are about to learn that humans do not give up and we do not surrender. A cheer went up from the assembled workers. These people had been laboring in secret for years, developing technology that the galaxy had never seen. They knew their work would either save Earth or die with them if they failed. Dr. Rodriguez pulled up a holographic display that showed the solar system. The phase ships will be able to move undetected through Draconian formations. Their sensors cannot track something that exists in another dimension. Captain Baker studied the tactical display. What about weapons? Can we attack from dimensional phase? That is the beautiful part, Elena replied. We can phase our weapons into normal space just long enough to strike, then phase them back before the enemy can respond. We will be able to attack them while remaining completely invisible. Amy pulled up another display showing Draconian ship designs. Their shields are designed to stop energy weapons and kinetic projectiles. They have no defense against attacks that bypass normal space entirely. Paul looked around the chamber at all the people who had been working toward this moment. Engineers, scientists, pilots, and soldiers had all contributed to humanity's secret weapon. Now it was time to see if their efforts would be enough. We have 6 weeks to finish preparations, Paul announced. 6 weeks to complete the ships and train the crews. 6 weeks to make sure Earth is ready to defend itself. Steve Baker saluted his general. The USS Defiance will be ready, sir. My crew has been training on simulators for months. The USS Phantom and USS Wraith are on schedule as well, added another voice from the crowd. Captain Lisa Grant and Captain Mike Torres stepped forward to confirm that their ships would also be ready for combat. Elena turned back to her machines. The dimensional generators are stable and ready for installation. Earth's fleet will have capabilities that no alien force has ever encountered. Paul nodded with grim satisfaction. The aliens had mocked Earth and dismissed humanity as primitive and weak. They were about to discover that humans had been hiding their true capabilities while the galaxy laughed at them. As the meeting broke up and people returned to their work, Paul looked at the recording device that contained all the insults from the Galactic Council. Soon every alien who had laughed at Earth would understand that they had made a terrible mistake. In 6 weeks, the Draconian Empire would bring their most powerful fleet to destroy what they thought was a defenseless world. Instead, they would encounter something that would change the galaxy forever. They would learn that underestimating humanity carried a price they were not prepared to pay. Fleet Commander Zethrak stood on the bridge of his flagship, the World Breaker, and felt satisfaction flow through his scaled body. Around him, the largest Draconian battle fleet ever assembled moved through hyperspace toward the small blue world that had dared to seek membership in the Galactic Council. The World Breaker was a massive ship, over 2 miles long and equipped with weapons that could crack a planet's surface. Behind it followed 215 other warships, each one capable of reducing a civilization to ash. This was not just a military operation. It was a statement to the entire galaxy about what happened to species that reached beyond their place. "Commander," said his second-in-command, a younger Draconian named Kextal, "all ships report ready for combat. The recording equipment is active and broadcasting our approach to every major world in the galaxy." Zethrak nodded with approval. The destruction of Earth would be witnessed by billions of beings across hundreds of worlds. Every species that thought they might challenge Draconian supremacy would see what happened to those who overestimated their own importance. "How long until we reach the human system?" Zethrak asked. 18 hours at current speed, replied the navigation officer. "Their primitive sensors will detect us long before we arrive, giving them time to panic and beg for mercy." The bridge crew laughed at this comment. The idea that humans might actually fight back never occurred to them. Earth had no real military fleet, and their weapons were thousands of years behind Draconian technology. In the depths of the ship, Draconian soldiers prepared their boarding equipment. After the orbital bombardment destroyed Earth's major cities, they would land to capture any surviving humans for the slave markets. Young and healthy humans would bring good prices from collectors who enjoyed owning primitive species. Zethrak walked to the main display screen that showed tactical information about the Sol system. Earth had a few orbital stations and some primitive warships, but nothing that could threaten even one Draconian vessel, let alone an entire fleet. "Their largest ship carries nuclear weapons," laughed the tactical officer. "Nuclear weapons? We stopped using such primitive devices before their species learned to make fire." "What about their defensive platforms?" asked Kextal. "Equally primitive," came the reply. "Energy shields that a single Draconian cruiser could overwhelm in minutes. This will not be a battle, it will be an execution." Meanwhile, on Earth, President Carol Turner sat in the war room deep beneath the Capitol. Around her, military leaders and scientists watched displays that tracked the approaching Draconian fleet. Instead of panic, there was calm determination. In the room, Admiral Jake Harrison, promoted after his return from Nexus Prime, studied the enemy formation. "They are not even trying to hide their approach. They want us to see them coming so we have time to be afraid. Their arrogance will be their downfall," said Dr. Elena Rodriguez. "They think we are still the same primitive species they mocked. 6 months ago." President Turner looked around the room at her advisors. "Are our assets in position?" "The USS Defiance, USS Phantom, and USS Wraith are all in dimensional phase and waiting," Admiral Harrison confirmed. "The Draconians will never detect them until it is too late." Lieutenant Amy Foster pulled up intelligence reports on her screen. "The enemy fleet is spreading into attack formation as they approach the outer solar system. They plan to surround Earth and attack from all directions at once." "Perfect," said Elena with a cold smile. "The more spread out they are, the easier it will be for our ships to pick them off one by one." Captain Steve Baker's voice came through the communication system from the bridge of the USS Defiance. "Admiral, we are in position near Neptune's orbit. The enemy fleet will pass right through our ambush zone." "Understood, Captain," Admiral Harrison replied. "Remember, we want them to get close enough to feel confident before we spring the trap." The Draconian fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Sol system, exactly as Earth's intelligence had predicted. Zethrak looked at his display screens and saw what he expected to see: a few small human ships fleeing toward the outer planets like frightened animals. "Look at them run," Kextal said with amusement. "They do not even try to fight." "Of course not," Zethrak replied. "They know they cannot win, so they flee like the cowards they are. Order all ships to pursue. We will hunt them down one by one." The massive Draconian fleet spread out across the solar system, exactly as Earth's planners had hoped they would. The alien ships accelerated toward the fleeing human vessels, confident in their overwhelming superiority. What the Draconians did not know was that the fleeing ships were decoys, automated vessels designed to draw the enemy fleet into the perfect position for Earth's real weapons to strike. Hidden in dimensional phase space, 3 advanced human warships moved like ghosts through the Draconian formation. Captain Lisa Grant aboard the USS Phantom positioned her ship near the enemy's left flank. "All systems ready. Dimensional weapons, charged and locked onto targets." Captain Mike Torres on the USS Wraith took position near the right flank. "In position and ready to engage. The enemy has no idea we are here." In the center of the formation, Captain Steve Baker prepared to begin the battle that would change everything. "All ships, this is Defiance. The trap is set. Prepare to show the galaxy what humans are really capable of." Zethrak watched his fleet pursue the fleeing human ships and felt satisfaction. Soon Earth would burn and the galaxy would remember this day as the moment when the Draconian Empire demonstrated its absolute power. He had no way of knowing that human ships were already moving through his fleet like invisible predators, preparing to strike with weapons that operated on principles his civilization had never imagined. The Draconians were about to learn that mocking Earth had been the greatest mistake in their species' history. The battle for humanity's place in the galaxy was about to begin, and the aliens who had dismissed humans as primitive and weak were about to discover that they had gravely underestimated their intended victims. The attack began without warning or ceremony. Captain Steve Baker gave a single-word command from the bridge of the USS Defiance, and the largest military fleet in Draconian history started to disappear. The first ship to vanish was a cruiser on the outer edge of the formation. One moment it was there on every sensor screen. The next moment it simply was not. No explosion, no debris field, no energy signature to indicate what had happened to it. The ship and its crew of 300 Draconians just ceased to exist in normal space. On the bridge of the World Breaker, Fleet Commander Zethrak stared at his tactical display in confusion. Navigation report. Where did the cruiser Starfang go? Unknown, Commander, came the nervous reply. All sensors show it. Was there, then it was gone. No distress signal, no indication of weapon fire. Before Zethrak could respond, 2 more ships disappeared from his fleet, then 3 more. Then an entire squadron of 6 ships vanished in the span of 30 seconds. The Draconian fleet began to spread out in panic as captains tried to understand what was attacking them. All ships, report your status, Zethrak ordered over the communication system. What are you seeing out there? The responses came back filled with fear and confusion. Ship after ship reported that vessels near them were simply vanishing without any visible cause. Some captains claimed to see brief flashes of light or strange distortions in space, but nothing that looked like an attacking ship. In dimensional phase space, the 3 human warships moved through the Draconian formation like sharks hunting in dark water. The USS Defiance, USS Phantom, and USS Wraith could see everything happening in normal space while remaining completely invisible to enemy sensors. Captain Lisa Grant targeted a Draconian battleship with her dimensional weapons. Phantom to all ships firing on target designated Charlie 7. The weapon beam existed in both dimensions simultaneously, striking the enemy ship while the USS Phantom remained hidden in phase space. The Draconian battleship did not explode or break apart. Instead, it was pulled into the dimensional void where it would drift helplessly until the humans decided what to do with it. Direct hit, reported Lisa's tactical officer. Enemy vessel has been displaced to dimensional storage. Captain Mike Torres aboard the USS Wraith was having similar success on the other side of the battlefield. His ship had already removed 15 Draconian vessels from the fight without taking a single hit in return. Wraith to Defiance, the enemy is starting to panic. Some ships are breaking formation. Confirmed, replied Captain Baker. Let them scatter. It will make them easier to pick off individually. Dr. Elena Rodriguez monitored the battle from Earth's command center, her quantum field generators maintaining the dimensional phase technology that kept the human ships invisible. All systems operating at peak efficiency. The Draconians have no defense against dimensional displacement weapons. Admiral Jake Harrison watched the tactical display that showed Draconian ships disappearing, one by one. Their formation is completely broken. They are firing at empty space and hitting their own ships. Indeed, the Draconian fleet had descended into chaos. Ships fired their weapons at shadows and sensor ghosts, often hitting Allied vessels by mistake. The precise military formation had become a scattered mess of confused and frightened ships. Zethrak tried to maintain control of his fleet as more ships vanished around him. All vessels, cease random fire, form defensive circles and scan for cloaked ships. But the Draconians had no experience fighting an enemy they could not see or detect. Their sensors were designed to track ships in normal space, not vessels that existed in parallel dimensions. Every tactical doctrine they had developed over thousands of years was useless against an enemy that could attack from nowhere and disappear instantly. Commander, called out Kextall, we have lost over 100 ships. Whatever is attacking us, Our weapons cannot touch it. Zethrak felt something he had never experienced before in combat: genuine fear. His massive fleet was being systematically destroyed by an enemy he could not even see. The humans were supposed to be primitive and weak, yet they were making the greatest military force in the galaxy look helpless. Captain Kate Morrison commanded the 4th human phase ship, the USS Mirage, and she had been waiting for the perfect moment to strike at the enemy flagship. As the battle continued around her, she maneuvered her invisible ship closer to the massive world-breaker. "Mirage to Fleet Command," Kate reported. "I have a clear approach to the enemy flagship, requesting permission to capture the command vessel." "Permission? Granted," Admiral Harrison replied from Earth. "Take their commander alive if possible. We want answers about their plans." Kate positioned her ship directly alongside the world-breaker, so close that the two vessels almost touched. The Draconian sensors never detected her approach. With careful precision, she activated the dimensional displacement field around both ships. On the bridge of the world-breaker, Zethrak suddenly felt a strange tingling sensation in the air. The lights flickered and the normal hum of the ship's engines changed pitch. Before he could order his crew to investigate, reality shifted around them. The world-breaker and everything inside it was pulled into dimensional phase space. The massive flagship disappeared from normal space along with its crew of 5,000 Draconians, including their fleet commander, who had been so confident just hours before. "Enemy flagship has been captured," Kate reported with satisfaction. "All command personnel are alive and unharmed." With their command ship gone and over half their fleet vanished, the remaining Draconian vessels finally broke completely. Ships scattered in all directions, abandoning any pretense of military discipline as they fled toward the edge of the solar system. "Let them go," ordered Admiral Harrison. "Make sure they can report what they saw here today." The 3 remaining human ships continued to pick off fleeing Draconian vessels until only a handful escaped. In less than 4 hours, the most powerful military fleet in galactic history had been reduced to a few dozen terrified survivors running home to tell their empire what had happened. Steve Baker surveyed the battlefield from his position in dimensional phase space. Where once there had been over 200 alien warships, now there was only empty space and a few pieces of debris from ships that had been damaged by friendly fire. "All ships report," he called out to his fellow commanders. "Phantom, operational 0 casualties," replied Lisa Grant. "Wraith operational 0 casualties," reported Mike Torres. "Mirage operational 0 casualties, and we have some very confused prisoners," added Kate Morrison. On Earth, President Carol Turner addressed her military staff with quiet satisfaction. "Gentlemen and ladies, Earth has just won its first interstellar war without losing a single ship or person. The galaxy would soon learn that the species they had mocked and dismissed had capabilities beyond anything they had imagined. The Draconian Empire would have to explain how their greatest fleet had simply vanished, and every alien civilization would have to reconsider everything they thought they knew about humanity. The age of Earth being ignored and underestimated was over. 3 weeks after the Draconian fleet vanished, the Galactic Council convened an emergency session aboard Nexus Prime. The same chamber where humans had been mocked and dismissed now buzzed with fear and confusion as alien representatives demanded answers about the most shocking military disaster in galactic history. Vextar, now the reluctant leader of the Draconian Empire after his brother's disappearance, stood before the assembled council with his golden eyes dimmed by defeat. The proud warrior who had once laughed at human primitiveness now struggled to explain how over 200 of his finest warships had simply vanished without a trace. The fleet reached the Sol system as planned, Vextar reported to the hushed chamber. They encountered minimal resistance from fleeing human vessels. Then something impossible happened. Our ships began disappearing one by one with no visible cause. The crystalline Zerathi representative vibrated with disbelief. "How does an entire fleet disappear? Your sensors must have detected something." "Our sensors detected nothing," Vextar replied with shame in his voice. "No enemy ships, no weapon signatures, no energy discharges. Our vessels simply ceased to exist." A Nebulan delegate shimmered in its containment suit. "Perhaps they were destroyed so completely that no debris remained." That is impossible, Vextar answered. Even antimatter weapons leave some trace. Our ships were there one moment and gone the next, as if they never existed at all. As the aliens debated what could have happened to the Draconian fleet, the chamber doors opened to admit a human delegation. Admiral Jake Harrison entered the room, followed by Dr. Elena Rodriguez and a small security detail. The same humans who had been humiliated in this chamber 6 months ago now walked with the confidence of victors. The chamber fell silent as Jake took his position in the center of the room. Unlike his previous visit when he had stood as a supplicant begging for membership, now he commanded the attention of every alien present. They all wanted to know what had happened to the most powerful military force in the galaxy. Admiral Harrison, said the council chairman, an ancient creature whose species had founded the Galactic Council millennia ago. We have heard disturbing reports about events in your solar system. Can you shed light on the fate of the Draconian fleet? Jake looked directly at Vextar before answering. The Draconian Empire sent a military force to attack Earth without provocation. That force encountered humanity's defensive capabilities and was neutralized. Neutralized how? Vextar demanded, stepping forward with his claws extended. Our ships simply vanished. What kind of weapon can make an entire fleet disappear? Dr. Elena Rodriguez moved to stand beside Jake. The Draconian fleet was not destroyed. They were relocated to a place where they can contemplate the consequences of underestimating Earth. A murmur of confusion ran through the chamber. The aliens had never heard of technology that could relocate ships rather than destroy them. Such capabilities were beyond their understanding of physics. The Zarathi delegate spoke up with its musical voice. You claim to have technology that can move objects without destroying them. This violates known laws of physics. Elena smiled coldly. It violates the laws of physics as you understand them. Humanity has learned to think beyond the limitations that bind other species to conventional approaches. Impossible, declared a reptilian alien from the far side of the chamber. No species developed such advanced technology in mere centuries. You humans were using chemical rockets just decades ago. That is exactly why we succeeded where others failed, Jake replied. While your civilization spent millennia perfecting the same old technologies, humans approached problems from entirely new directions. Vextar's voice carried a note of desperation. Where is my brother? Where is Fleet Commander Zethrak and his crew? They are alive and unharmed, Jake answered. They have been provided with basic supplies and a single communication device. Their release depends on the Draconian Empire's future behavior toward Earth and our allies. The word allies sent another ripple of concern through the chamber. If Earth had allies, it meant other species might also possess these mysterious capabilities that had defeated the Draconians. The council chairman called for order as debates broke out among the various delegations. The council recognizes that the situation has changed dramatically. We must address Earth's status in light of recent events. Jake stepped forward. Earth no longer seeks membership in the Galactic Council. We are here to inform you that humanity will be establishing our own interstellar relationships based on mutual respect and equality. This announcement caused chaos in the chamber. Every alien began talking at once, their translators struggling to keep up with the multiple conversations. The idea that a species could simply reject the council and operate independently was unprecedented. You cannot ignore the established order, protested the Nebulan delegate. All spacefaring civilizations must operate within the framework of galactic law. Elena laughed, a sound that somehow seemed threatening in the vast chamber. Galactic law is defined by who? The same species that mocked us and dismissed us as primitive? Earth will define its own place among the stars. The chairman called for another vote, but this time the question was different. Instead of voting on whether to accept Earth into the council, they were voting on whether to grant humanity immediate membership with full privileges. The vote was swift and unanimous. Every delegation that had previously rejected Earth now voted to accept them, not out of respect for human achievements, but from naked fear of what might happen if they refused. Jake looked around the chamber at all the aliens who had laughed at humanity's application. The Galactic Council's offer is noted and rejected. Earth has no interest in joining an organization that judges species based on age rather than capability. As the human delegation prepared to leave, Jake received a communication from Captain Steve Baker aboard the USS Defiance. The message was brief but significant. Admiral, the Draconian prisoners have been informed of their situation. They understand that their release depends on their empire's future conduct. Vextar overheard the communication, and his scales darkened with emotion. What assurance do we have that you will honor your word? You have the same assurance you gave Earth when you decided to attack us, Jake replied. None whatsoever. The human delegation left the chamber as alien representatives continued to debate among themselves. Some wanted to declare war on Earth. Others argued for immediate diplomatic contact, and a few suggested retreating to the far edges of the galaxy to avoid any contact with humans. As their ship departed Nexus Prime, Elena looked back at the space station that represented everything the galaxy thought it knew about interstellar civilization. They still do not understand what happened today. Jake nodded as he watched the station shrink in their rear displays. They think this was about military technology, but it was really about something much more fundamental. What do you mean? We showed them that being old does not make you wise and being advanced does not make you superior, Jake explained. Every species in that chamber has been limited by their own assumptions about what is possible. Their ship turned toward Earth, where construction had already begun on humanity's next project. Deep beneath the lunar surface, Director Ryan Clark oversaw the development of facilities that would ensure Earth's place among the stars was never again questioned. The nameplate on his office door read, Dimensional Fleet Command, where humanity's true navy is born. Earth had not conquered the galaxy through force or intimidation. Instead, humanity had demonstrated that thinking differently could overcome any technological disadvantage. The species that had been mocked for their youth and dismissed for their inexperience had claimed their place among the stars by proving that innovation mattered more than age. The galaxy would never again underestimate the small blue planet at the edge of a minor star system. Earth had earned its independence not by joining the established order, but by showing that the established order could be changed by anyone bold enough to think beyond conventional limitations. Humanity's journey to the stars had truly begun.